Okay. Good morning. My name is Sherry Few, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Some of you may recognize me from some of the tea parties. If you've attended our State House tea parties, the last couple, I was honored to be able to speak. I am the president of Stand Up South Carolina. It's a fairly new organization that we started around the impetus of the tea parties. Our goals with Stand Up South Carolina is to encourage citizens to stand up to protect our American values. And that's something that I've spoke about in the last two opportunities that I've had to speak at these rallies. We are very interested in South Carolina in particular. We understand that there is a lot of problems in Washington, D.C., and we know that we can't have a very big impact on that. However, we do know that getting our house in order here in South Carolina is critical. And we believe that that is especially important with the risk of things that are happening in Washington, D.C. We need a state that has leadership that respects our state's rights and is willing to protect our state's rights when these things are coming down from the federal government that we don't agree with. So we've organized in an attempt to identify good leadership for the 2010 elections. We understand that the 2010 elections are critical. And it's critical for us in South Carolina as well as the congressional seats that will be up for election. We are organized predominantly to endorse candidates, and we have established criteria for which we will make endorsements. If you'll go to our website, standupsc.com, you will see the criteria there. And we welcome your input for candidates that you think are worthy and meet this criteria, even on the local level. We would like to make endorsements to help you to identify good leadership in your towns. At the July 4th Tea Party, we had announced our first two endorsements. Ordinarily, endorsements don't happen this early, but we feel like the timing is critical. These are urgent times in which we live, and we need to get behind candidates early for the 2010 elections so that we can help garner the support they need and pin them up in the work that they're doing. So we were able to endorse two candidates, the two leading state offices during the July 4th Tea Party, and it is my pleasure today to introduce to you one of those. Now, I have to tell you that this candidate does stand up to protect our American values. She has already proven this in her leadership in the House, and I'm not going to steal her thunder. I'm going to let her explain to you how she has done that. But because of her courage and because of her willingness to stand up to the good old boys in the State House, it was an easy choice to endorse your next speaker and my good friend, Representative Nikki Haley, for governor.
I have spent the last 5 or 6 years trying to get people to understand the value of their voice. It is crucial that we don't just allow things to happen to us, but that we actually control what happens to us. I want to give you a little bit of background for those of you that don't know me. I was born and raised in Bamberg, which was a small town where you couldn't think about doing something wrong without someone already calling and telling your mom. But it taught you responsibility and it taught you accountability early. I grew up in a small town where my parents were immigrants that came over here, and they loved the fact that you could come to this country and make yourself anything that you wanted to be, that nothing would stand in your way, and that opportunities were ahead of you. It was about personal responsibility, and it was about proving what you could do, and they loved the fact that parents could pass things down to their children. So my mother was a lawyer and a public education teacher. She was back in India. She was a judge, but at that time females weren't allowed to practice on the bench, so she didn't have the opportunities that I have, and I am one example that now I stand before you running for governor on how great this country is. My father was a PhD in biology, and they came to this country and started a business out of the living room of our home. 30 years later, they had a multi-million-dollar company that they had themselves worked to achieve. Now, what I will tell you is that was never an uphill, a never straight up profit margin. What they saw were ups and downs. There were good times and there were bad times in that business. When times were tough, they got lean, they got creative, and they understood the value of a dollar. When times got great, they knew it wasn't going to last forever, so they saved because they knew that it was going to get bad again. I started doing the books when I was 13. I went through my first corporate audit when I was 15. When I went to Clemson, I realized that wasn't normal. But the interesting thing was my mom didn't want me to know that that wasn't normal. She wanted me to always know that there are no limitations in your life. And whatever you do, be great at it. And make sure that other people around you benefit from it. I went on to Clemson and I graduated with a degree in accounting, and then went on and became a corporate accountant for a company in Charlotte and 5 of its subsidiaries. Worked there for a couple of years and then came back home to the family business. And one of the things I found in the family business was how intrusive government was on small businesses, how hard it was to make a dollar, and how easy it was for government to take that dollar. And that bothered me. My parents always said, don't complain about it, do something about it. And so I did. I decided to run for the State House. I did not know at the time that you weren't supposed to run against a 30-year incumbent in a primary. But I got into the race, and once I got in and realized what I had done, it was too late, and the only option was to win. The people of, and I did, the people of that district were great enough to elect me, and I've spent the last 5 years trying to prove to them that they made a good decision. You know, when I got to the State House, I saw a few things that were interesting. Some I liked, and some I didn't. What I will tell you is what we are facing right now in this state and in this country. Every single problem that we have comes right back around to spending. Every single bit of it. What I found was that government didn't understand the value of a dollar. What I found was that they didn't understand that during the hard times you get creative, you stretch that dollar and you figure out how to make it work for you and you prioritize. When I came into the State House in 2005, we had a $4 billion budget. When I came in 2006, we had a $5 billion budget. When I came in 2007, we had a $6 billion budget. We grew government by $1 billion a year. And you know what the worst part of it is? I can't tell you where that money went. No one can tell you where that money went. We know it went to parks. We know it went to rooftops. We know it went to monuments. We know it went to festivals. And if you didn't go to that festival, you didn't get your money's worth. And then that takes us back to what is the role of government? Government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. That's it. It was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never intended to be all things to all people. And we are now watching our state and our country try and do that. And it is now more than ever that we have to stand up stronger, and we have to make sure that they remember that is not what the people want from them. As I was at the State House, I started to see some things that I thought you would not be proud of. There were a lot of votes that were being taken anonymously by voice. They would go across the desk very quickly. If you've ever been on the House floor or on the Senate floor, it's chaotic. Things happen fast. And everything that the Speaker is saying are all bills that affect your life. And every one of those bills has a price tag attached to it. And it finally came to a head when one day we were dealing with a cost of living increase for state employees and retirees. And in order to get a vote on the record, meaning in order for a legislator to have their name and how they vote next to it, one person has to ask for the vote, the Speaker has to acknowledge that person asking for a vote, and 9 other people have to agree that they want that vote on the record. Well, that vote didn't happen on the record. It passed well, let me tell you, the story about that vote was fine. The problem was they put an amendment in on that bill that would give legislative perks to legislators. It would give retirement perks to legislators as well. I have no problem with that. I don't judge them for that. What I will tell you is those things need to be properly debated. You need to know about it, and you need to be able to see which legislators were for it and which ones weren't. That vote passed unanimously by a voice vote. There was not a vote on the record for that, and you to this day cannot find one legislator that says they were for it. Not one. Ask them, try it.